Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Naked Truth, brought to you by Naked Dog. We are a raw dog food company, so it's dog food as it should be, and these are canine conversations as they should be. And tonight we are going to be talking all about grooming fearful dogs, which is obviously something that is stressful for both the dog and the owners involved as well, or the guardians of the dogs, and also the groomers. You know, it's Steph here that I am interviewing tonight. She's going to tell us all about the grooming industry, really, how it's evolved and what you can do to find a groomer that can work really effectively with a dog that's a little bit fearful, or maybe a dog that hasn't been groomed for a while, because it is quite stressful for the groomers as well. Foos has just come. This is good, isn't it? Look at this. Foos has come to see you, Steph.
Oh,
welcome to the Naked Truths show, and thanks guys for watching tonight. If you're watching on a replay, please do put hashtag replay, because we love to see who watches, and do say where you're from as well, and obviously comments and photos of dogs always go down well, so if you want to post those as well. Couple of bits of news before we get going and talk about the grooming side of things. Our competition on Instagram has about a week to go. Let's have a look. I'm just going to hop on there myself. If you head to Instagram, if you haven't entered yet, there's 3 things you've got to do to be in for the running for a year's supply of naked dog food. Head to that post. So you just scroll down, and if you like the post, and then if you follow Naked Dog Raw, so follow here as well. So you might have to click off the post actually to do that part of it. And then you just need to comment underneath. So tag underneath somebody in the comments. At the moment, we've had quite a few thousand entries. However, not everyone's done. In fact, I'd say still at least 1,500 people who have entered have not done all 3 things, because what they haven't done is clicked back and followed Naked Dog Raw. So that means you guys, you've got insider information now of the 3 things you need to do to win, so you can head to do that. Have more of a chance than the others. Second piece of exciting news is it's really not going to be very long until our Naked puppy food hits your local stockist. So we're going to have 4 different varieties in the Naked Pup range, and 3 of them are going to be single protein, which is fabulous. We have a lovely omega ratio balanced hemp oil going into them as well, so really nice organic hemp oil. Some prebiotics as well going into the puppy range. Puppies always need just that little extra helping hand in digestion, because they actually don't create secondary bile acids as well as adult dogs, so they just sometimes need just that extra helping hand with digestion. So prebiotics that we're putting in the food, it's going to be really, really useful. So your puppy will soon be able to enjoy Naked Pup in surf and turf. So this is the one that's not the single protein, of course, in beef, in chicken, and in rabbit, which is the exciting one, because this is a unique protein. And I know how many of you are looking forward to giving your dog, you know, a unique protein. And even in puppies these days, we're seeing quite a lot of dogs that need to be on elimination diets. So we're really hoping that these foods will support that. But without further chat, let's talk to our extra special guest. Tell us all about your approach with grooming, Steph.
So holistic grooming is combining canine behaviour, safe handling, your own energy, self-care, compassion, all the good stuff, and putting it into the grooming environment and how that can have a kind of positive impact on the dog that you're dealing with. So obviously in commercial grooming right now, the emphasis is more on how to style a dog to a breed standard trim or a pet standard trim. So holistic grooming is more about trying to delve deeper into what kind of the functionality of the dog and how that impacts the entire environment, and also how grooming preserves health and well-being as well. So yeah, it's a little bit different.
Wow, I mean, it sounds like you'd be learning a lot more if you're learning holistic grooming.
Yeah, oh no, definitely. I mean, it's something that's not really covered in the curriculum at the moment, but there are different extra kind of courses that you can take these days that certainly get you better prepared for a more holistic approach. And obviously, I've just launched my course as well, so I'm very excited about that. And it's targeted more so right now for groomers, but there will be guardian courses available quite soon as well. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, does it mean with holistic as well? If you're looking for somebody who is going to use maybe natural products or organic products with dogs, because as I understand it, I remember speaking to a lady at one of the pet trade shows once, and she explained to me that there are very few regulations in terms of the shampoos, the conditioners, these sort of sprays you can put on dogs, and they can actually have far more chemicals in them than the human range of products. Is that still the case? I mean, where would people, how would they know that their groomer was using a natural product?
Well, if they advertise, I suppose, but I mean, I think the kind of frightening thing about grooming as well right now is that dermatology isn't covered in the course in your curriculum either. So you've not really got an in-depth knowledge of how how the skin functions and the significance of the products that you're actually using. And it's frightening because a lot of, for example, show groomers will use a little bit of fairy liquid to get that coat squeaky clean. And you think, oh my gosh, you just obviously pH levels are far more sensitive in dogs than even babies, for example. So the likes of baby shampoos that I think a lot of guardians might opt for at home as well can be damaging to the coat and the skin. So again, it's to do with obviously researching your products and making sure, like you say, they are natural, naturally sourced and as organic as you possibly can. But yeah, it's a minefield. It really is.
Yeah, it sounds it, to be honest. Fairy liquid sounds a bit too harsh. I mean, back in the day, it was advertised as keeping your hands soft, wasn't it? I don't think it does, really, does it?
No, definitely not. I think that the only kind of human product I've ever used is cornstarch. And again, it's a natural deodorizer for coats in between your grooms, and it's also quite good for helping to ease out any tangles of the coat.
Mhm.
But I mean, that's the only product that I would use. It's not specifically designed for dogs, but it's not going to do much damage at all. So, but apart from that, yeah, you have to really be careful which products you're using. But I mean, there's an immense amount of companies out there now providing really good quality products for groomers.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering as well, if you are buying a product for your dog that you want to use at home, I'm wondering if it's a little bit like food in terms of labeling, that the word natural can be written all over it, but it isn't necessarily natural. I mean, what can people look for to make sure they are genuinely getting something that's going to be good for their dog?
You will have to ask, because I mean, it's the same with food labels as well. They don't even disclose half the things in labels. So you're better just going to the manufacturer themselves and asking exactly what is in their products, because I mean it honestly is a minefield. The less chemicals and the less products used in making the product as well, the better. So I use, for example, the Dog and I, which is a company based in Dorset.
Yeah,
They have
farm.
Yeah, she's lovely. Kerry's amazing. And the thing I love about Kerry is that she shares all of her knowledge with everyone, and she wants everyone to learn how to make their own soaps at home. And again, I think she only uses 3 ingredients. And she keeps it really, really kind of, I think coconut oil is one of the kind of major one. And then it's just a couple of other dog friendly essential oils as well that she uses. But again, it's dilution. And a lot of groomers don't realise, or guardians even don't realise, the importance of diluting their products to the specifics on the labels as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Well, that's a good tip. There's a feeling in me that there's a brand called Wild Wash that is pretty good as well. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, don't get me started on Wild Wash. When I first started back in 2018, I had no idea how many bottles I would need or whatever. I stocked up. I got every single shampoo range that they had in the 5-litre bottles, and I had to throw half of them out because I never used them.
Oh,
But But do you know what I like about Wild Wash is that the fragrance is so subtle, and
Mhm.
it's something that we delve into in holistic grooming, as well as the significance of fragrance in your products and how that can have a negative impact on the dog as well.
Mhm.
So product is a massive topic, but again, I would be saying to people to be a wee bit more mindful of the products you're using in terms of the strength of the fragrance as well, because
Yeah.
less is more there with dogs, obviously with their sensitive noses.
Yes.
Um, but
And
yeah.
guessing Wild Wash also didn't have too many preservatives, hence why they didn't last forever on your shelf.
No, I know. Well, do you know something? The only thing about Wild Wash is they come in plastic bottles. Is with your dog and I, it's all very much eco-friendly, and that's what I love about it. So your soaps are they come as they are; they're not in plastic or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I just make sure that you go for nice, reputable companies when you're choosing your products.
Yeah, okay. Tell us how you got into grooming.
Oh my goodness. So I was a disc jockey for many years.
Oh, go tell us about you.
And I'm waiting to see my son's faces when they're older and I tell them that. Like, no, no. But yeah, I was a disc jockey, but I had quite a lot of issues with my mental health. And when I had my children, I had quite bad postnatal as well. And I was really struggling to kind of put a smiley face on, really. So I'd read somewhere that I have 4 dogs at home, and I'd read somewhere that the happy hormones released when you're petting your dog helps to curb mental health.
Mhm.
So I decided to have a change of career, and that's what I did. So I kind of researched different options, dog walking and things, and I don't know, I just something about dog grooming really stood out. I've got a poodle, 2 Tibetan Mastiffs, and a miniature Dachshund, so they all need quite regular grooming. So it kind of was a no-brainer for me to kind of pursue dog grooming.
Mhm. And did you do a course that you would say was quite holistic, or did you do more of a styling one to begin with?
So I didn't know the difference between holistic grooming and commercial grooming when I first started. All I had behind me was I was a dog parent, and I had an expectation that this, that, and whatever would be covered. So I enrolled in just a typical commercial grooming course. It was a 30-day intensive, which is your kind of box standard. And it was for OCN, level 3. Again, it was just all very much focused on commercial styling, and not much emphasis on your handling or behaviour. To be honest, I wouldn't have recommended it to anybody. Anything that I know now, I've had to go out and learn through different avenues.
Mhm. So obviously you are, you're trained in grooming.
Yeah.
No, you head out there to start grooming some dogs, and you presumably got some fearful dogs starting to come to you, and you found ways to work with these dogs that enabled the dogs to feel safer and happier with you. I mean, what are some of the things that you do differently, do you think?
It was all trial and error, because obviously when I first trained, I was very much commercial focused. So there was a lot of handling restraints. There was a lot of anxiety as well. I mean, because we're taught as well to leave aggressive dogs and nervous dogs to better, kind of more experienced handlers. But then it kind of dawned on me, I was like, well, how do you really gain experience without first doing it? So that kind of motivated me to go out and enroll into the ISCP, the International School of Canine Psychology. And there I studied a safe handling diploma with Tony Shelburne.
Oh,
And yes,
come on as a speaker, actually. Yeah.
all right, she's lovely. So she was kind of the breakthrough for me. I learned pretty much all of my handling skills through her course. And then I started practicing everything that I was learning, basically, and realized that there was more to handling than I ever thought was possible. So I started to kind of use less restraints. Then I enrolled into a canine behaviour course with the ISCP again, and learned a bit more about how dogs think and communicate and calming signals. And then it just opened up a whole new new can of worms, really. And then I started having a more kind of broader look around the environment as well and how that was having an impact. I started to kind of experiment with different things there as well in terms of your music, chamomile music, essential oils and whatnot. So it just progressively became more and more holistic as time went on. But it was a natural transition, ironically.
It's, as a pet owner, I think it's interesting to kind of know that, because you just presume, don't you, that if somebody's going to study grooming, that they're also going to study how to handle dogs. And
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that doesn't always just automatically happen. So
No.
what I'm wondering is, from a guardian's point of view, is it maybe better to have a chat with the groomer beforehand? You know, what sort of courses have you done? What experience have you got with fearful dogs, and what restraints do you use? And if they say, oh, you know, we don't really use restraints, you're like, big tick. Because they, you know, they don't necessarily feel they need them.
Yeah, I think in the grooming world anyway, there's a lot of confusion between safe handling and control, and force as well. So in terms of handling in the grooming industry, that just means you use handling restraints. So you have your belly straps or your happy straps, you've got your neck nooses or neck straps, whatever you want to call them, calming cradles, or all these things are regarded as safe handling within the grooming industry, which is what I was quite surprised at as a guardian looking in, because I knew there was a different way of doing things. And it's certainly something that really needs to be updated in the grooming industry, and that's why I advocate for it all the time. But definitely, sorry, Caroline, I totally went on a tangent there. In answer to your question, yes, definitely ask questions with your groomer and make sure that they're investing in their education, because it's not just grooming you're looking for, it's canine behaviour and safe handling as well.
Well, and also the calming signals to me would be a bit of a no-brainer.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
the dog can't communicate that they feel uncomfortable, which ultimately that's what a calming signal is all about. You know, they're aiming to calm the situation. They're signaling that they would like to calm things. That just seems to me like, wow, how is it not even included? I mean, I can understand you could do a course in styling as kind of, I would see that, I mean, automatically, I would see that as a bit of a module. I mean, luckily, Fusa doesn't need to go to the groomer. But if I was going to a groomer, even in all these years I've worked with dogs, I would just automatically presume that they'd done a module on the behaviour, or just how to be calm around the dog, perhaps, and just be different around the dog. It's really
Grooming. I mean, for my course, there was an extra course added at the very end, which was canine behaviour, but I mean, it was half a day. Whereas, you know, I think they've got it back to front. I think that they really should have canine behaviour and safe handling is number one. If you don't know how to observe and communicate with the dog and handle them safely, then how can you style them with sharp objects? It just doesn't make sense to me. So it is covered, and don't get me wrong, there are a lot of grooming tutors, out there who make the effort and teach their students that. My experience is, though, however, that they're very few and far between, sadly, and that's the issue.
Would you say there's breeds in particular that you find are more scared of being groomed, or
stereotypes?
That's what I'm wondering. I mean,
that's a good point. I mean, there are patterns as well that you do pick up on when you're working with animals. I mean, my practice, I specialize in fearful dogs, so mostly all of my dogs that come in have some form of behavioral issue that needs resolved. But you kind of get to a point where you observe certain breed types and you do pick up on certain things. Cockapoos, for example, can be quite sensitive, and quite sensitive to touch as well, which is odd. Again, it's just poodles as well can be quite sensitive. You'll probably find more of your kind of poodle mixes, but in terms of to be honest, it doesn't matter which breed. I mean, any dog can be fearful. If they've one negative experience and that's it, you're basically starting from basics again.
Mm-hmm. Just thinking from the guardian's point of view, things like claw clipping. I mean, what would be exactly? I mean, this is a big thing for people, because
Mhm.
you're not walking your dog on a hard surface,
Yeah.
allowing them obviously to be on the earth and ground and connect with planet Earth. You know, if you're missing out the hard surfaces bit, they're not going to rub those claws down. And some dogs have got such really strong skeletal system and strong claws because they're eating a lovely fresh meat based diet. You know, it really can be an issue. So what can people do? I mean, have you got any hints and tips that help with claw clipping?
And don't forget the dews as well. So even the most active of dogs on the ground still need to have their dew claws clipped from time to time. So it's still worthwhile implementing positive training into getting your dog used to having his nails clipped. There's different things you can do. I love there's a lady, she's no longer here, sadly, but Dr. Sophia Yin does a lot of safe handling and working with, fearful dogs around nail clipping. And she uses desensitization, counter conditioning, and positive reinforcement to try and obviously change that underlying emotional response from getting their nails clipped from negative to positive. So it's just basic desensitization, gradually working it up. But there's other things as well. Like there's have you ever seen the sandpaper and the scratch boards?
Oh no, I haven't.
No, oh my goodness. So like the same idea is like a cat with a scratch post,
Right.
only it's like for a dog. So it's like, I think you can make them yourself, get them like the stuff from B&Q or whatever, but it's like a sandpaper on a wooden board. And it's like a really good training exercise as well. And you're training the dogs to grind his nails on the sandpaper.
Okay, and
And
they
it
don't
works.
hats then?
No, I don't know how well, when they inject their claws or deject, I don't know the word, the dictionary. Whenever they go to that scratching notion, they pop out their claws, sorry, and that scratches whatever needs scratched. For some reason, they don't tend to get the pads at all. It would be worthwhile, monitoring it. But anyone that I've spoke to, any trainers that use that, I mean, I've never tried it, but there's been great success with it. So that's another way you can implement that.
In my experience with all this sort of thing, I mean, I've not done dog grooming apart from obviously bathing. I mean, we used to bath and groom the Pyreneans before they went in the show ring and things like that. So I mean, I've done a fair bit, and the Lhasa Apsos. And interestingly, even within that breed and within the same family unit, they had all different types of fur. So I mean, you'd have like Goldie was really easy to brush, no problems at all. She could be as knotty as the next dog, but you'd then have Sandy, and you couldn't groom him, and they were related, so you get all different furs obviously, and they're all on the same raw diets as well. So interesting. I mean, I've done a lot of grooming, more that kind of thing, but in terms of handling, of course, I've done a lot. And when I worked back in the kennels, we used to have a lot of dogs come in that needed maybe bandages changing. We used to have quite a few that they would accidentally rip their dew claws, like greyhounds, and
Yeah.
then have to change their bandages. And obviously there's different levels of apprehension that they've got about you doing this.
Mhm.
And what I found, and I'm pretty sure from a story that as well about our lovely friend Vanessa, that often stepping back and taking longer, what you think is going to take longer, taking your time over it. And I would sort of massage the top of the dog's leg and then slowly go down towards where the bandage was, rather than going straight in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that you'd think would take longer, but it actually turned out to be quicker, because you were almost preparing the dog and the dog felt safer.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember Vanessa's story? Because I'd really like to share it on the live, if you can remember it, about Harriet.
I can't. I honestly can't. I know we should have had her on here.
No, absolutely fantastic groomer that we both know. And yeah, she's studying something called canine flow, which I also teach as well. Didn't mean to be plugging that big time, but this is what she did. And this poor dog was very, very scared, very, very scared of being groomed. And Vanessa also specializes in fearful dogs, as you do as well. People sort of know her as someone they can go to. And this dog was taking hours. It was like a whole afternoon would be gone for this one particular dog. And the guardian would stay as well, because she didn't like to leave. So of course then she was waiting as well, and she was anxious, and it was all just getting too much. So Vanessa decided to do some canine flow meditation for, I think it was probably about half an hour before the grooming session took place, and she reduced the time down to like about an hour and a half.
Yeah, like the groom is like 15 minutes, whereas the meditation's 30.
Yeah, but you'd think, wouldn't you, like, oh, I haven't got time to do any meditation, that's just going to make it take even longer. But what it did is it calmed the whole situation, and it meant that the groom that was taking so long was halved in time.
I think a lot of people are so put off, a lot of groomers are put off with the holistic approach because they're that frightened that they don't have time. And Vanessa's story is obviously a testament to the method that it works. It's not about wasting time, it's about gaining that dog's trust and changing that association with the environment. And suddenly that initial investment of time then helps every other future appointment when that dog comes in, because he's no longer worried about what's going to happen. And it is, I mean, it's...
But they also, I would imagine as well, that these emotions and this anxiety that the dogs put out might be picked up by other dogs who then coming afterwards, or you know, or are waiting at the time, you know, because I know some groomers have dogs waiting. So, you know, it's going to affect everything you do. It is an interesting concept, because it's like, we, you know, you could feel like we're rushing the dogs through, but you really, ultimately, we want to be putting the dogs first. The guardian is looking for a groomer that wants to put the dog first.
Yeah, I think, and again, it's there are some guardians out there who are not willing to invest in the initial time it takes, or invest in a little bit more money for a more holistic groomer, or more, you know, a groomer who's invested in further education. But once they see the benefits and how quickly the benefits actually do happen, then it's a no-brainer. But it's interesting because I talk about energy quite a lot as well, and a lot of the things that I do, and it's like the same idea as like if you walk into like a room and let, you know, there's tension in the room, you automatically feel that tension yourself. And it's like objects can hold energy, so it's so symbolic.
We kind of override it, don't we, and be like, oh, I'm being silly, that it can't be, but the dog will feel what the dog feels. And really that. I'm going to look for comments. Do you want to just tell people a little bit about your essential oils and what it is that you use? Because I'm quite a fan of Pet Remedy, just to throw another brand into this line.
I like Pet Remedy.
But yeah, Pet Remedy's awesome. I really like those guys at Pet Remedy. They've really worked hard on that product. But that is a set, and I think possibly still undisclosed, recipe of essential oils that they use that are all natural, isn't it? So what do you use as well in your... I'm gonna have to look down to do it. So
actually, I know that you had Frankie and jellies in before as well. I actually I used to use like your kind of your essential oils and then just dilute them on like an essential burner until I came across Sarah and her paw wax melts.
Wax melt. Well, you know who else has them in their store is Dr. Nick, his wife.
Oh, and they smell amazing.
Yeah,
the issue with them, all I do though is I break them up into the tiniest little bits, because I found that too much, obviously again, too much fragrance can be quite overbearing for the dog. And obviously I speak quite a lot to Caroline Wilkinson as well about this, is that dogs have choice, or should have choice. And some fragrances don't work well with some dogs, whereas other fragrances will work well with other dogs. So it's given the dog that chance to make his own decisions. So that's one of the things I've recently invested in, is those wax melts, but they're really good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you on that. The whole self-selection, botanical self-selection. Yeah, I agree that I mean, sometimes even like I can be like, oh, I really like lemongrass, and I can burn it. And then some days I'm like, oh no, I really don't like it. And you've got no reasoning behind it. You just don't feel like it. So that's a good point to make. I do seem somehow the Pet Remedy one does seem to sort of fit all dogs in some way. subtler. We've got some fabulous questions actually that I'm going to throw at you now. We've got some great questions. So Rachel has said, can Stephanie tell us whether she sees a difference in the coats amongst dogs that are processed food fed and dogs that eat real food, raw food?
Now that would be my bad here, okay?
Ask people what they feed their dog.
Well, that's it. So that's probably a learning curve for me, that question, because that's probably a very significant question. We do know that diet does have an effect on the coat condition, but we should be doing our due diligence and asking the guardians then, what is it you're feeding your dog? I've fed my dogs dry, I've fed my dogs raw, and I've fed my dogs fresh, and currently they're fresh fed. What I will say is, from all three of them with my own dogs, you're probably looking at raw feeding is probably the best for coat condition based on my own observations with my own dogs at home. But in terms of the salon, Rachel, I don't know, because I don't ask that question. Probably should.
As soon as I asked you that, I thought she doesn't ask him. I bet
yeah.
Yeah, because I guess you wouldn't think to. I mean, you must see yeasty dogs though.
Oh yeah, I mean, gosh, quite common in your bulldogs, any kind of wrinkle coats. Again, you know, you get these dogs coming in with medicated shampoos from the vets. So again, we're not really investigating other ways of working with these animals, which is something that we really ought to. It's not just a case of steroids and heavy scrub and whatever else it is. Like, what is the actual cause here? But we already know that a lot of what's in the outside is obviously reflection of the inside as well. So there's an imbalance in all the systems, not just obviously the skin. But yeah, no, definitely yeast infections are the worst. It's such a sad thing to see as well.
Yeah, I've temporarily forgotten her name, but there was a lady where I grew up that was a really well-known groomer, and she used to always say to me, get yeast raiders from Holland and Barrett. This was back like before we kind of knew what we do about diet now, you know, before it was mainstream. And she will buy them. You know, I don't even know if it's a product that still exists, to be honest. It's obviously made for people anyway. So another question, Emma says some groomers are doing live streams as you can't stay now because of COVID. Is that something that you find is useful? I mean, I'm guessing they're teaching the guardians potentially things like nail filing.
Yeah, I mean, I've always recorded all of my sessions anyway. But I mean, what I found as well is for a lot of dogs, having the guardian there present does actually help.
Live streams, as in you can see the dog. I get it. I thought they were teaching the
oh yeah, no, like I know what you mean. Yeah, you can actually see what the groomer's doing. Yeah, no, I mean, it's quite common. I don't think it depends on the kind of platform as well, if they're allowed to engage with the groomer as she's working or he's working. For me, I just record all of my sessions and then I send them over to the guardian after. But I do know that another groomer that I know, Emma, she live streams, and you can literally sign into her group and you can watch her live. I'm far too nervous for that. I would freak out. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice thing to see behind the scenes, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they do that in even kennels, I think, now, don't they?
Really?
What your dog does all day.
Oh,
People
gosh.
get them for their houses, don't they? View what your dog does all day, and it's always way more boring than you think it's going to be.
Oh, I love sleeping.
So Lucy says, I do, which I'm assuming she means knowing the answer about and she says we have a lot of raw fed dogs with the shop and the ones we have transitioned, so she must have shop and groomers as well, and their coats are much nicer, softer and healthier. They smell less when wet too. That's interesting, isn't it? Not that doggy smell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Rachel also says, does Steph groom and then have a line of natural products and shampoos that a guardian can purchase from her? So I don't know whether you actually have product line yet, do you?
No, I don't know, although that's a good idea.
Something else think about in your like grooming domination.
To be honest, I absolutely love Kerry's soaps and things. So I think, maybe I'll learn how to make her soaps. I might take her course actually and just start selling them. But I mean, I've invested a lot of money in really good quality products. So I'll have to use them up first. But people that come into the salon can opt to have their own bespoke grooming kit, which is basically catered to each individual dog. And that includes all of the products that I use in the salon. So yeah, but I think, yeah, it's a good idea.
So really what we're back to is, finding a groomer that can take their time, that has a basic idea of calming signals with dogs, can read dogs, observe dogs in a nice way. Not a groomer that, so price wise, I mean, are you, if you've got a groomer that does take their time, although I have just obviously said that usually we find that means it doesn't take as long, but do you find that those kind of groomers charge a bit more, and that maybe going by price gives you an indication of what sort of a service you're going to get?
I think price is it's a huge topic, isn't it? I mean, because I always say to people when I'm tutoring people as well, I always say you have to work out your individual costs first of all, and everyone has their own break even. So we are a business at the end of the day. So first of all, that we have to consider. But if you're also investing in your education and you're going above and beyond to learn more, then you have to charge more because your value is more. So yeah, I mean, you are looking at probably a wee bit more expensive, but when you look at it in another way, you're also getting a behaviorist and you're getting a trainer who are working with your dog consistently every time. So it's not going to also benefit the grooming environment, but the vet environment. It's also going to benefit you at home as well, because you've got a really savvy and knowledgeable groomer behind you. So yeah.
What about rescue remedy, things like that? Are they kind of worth giving the dog before grooming?
I love Bax. I do. I've got them all. So I use Bax Herbal Remedy. Yep. So I put a bit, again, it's about self-selection. So I have two different bowls in the salon. I've got one at one end and I've got one at the other. And they're always obviously refreshed as well per each dog. So just remember to clean before dogs if you're a groomer watching. So one's got your Bax Remedy and the other's got just your normal fresh water. But again, you can apply it on the crown, you can apply it in the mouth, you can apply it in the pads, it's such a versatile and amazing product.
By the time you've got this calming environment, it's no wonder the owners want to be there, really.
You're falling asleep as well. No, it makes a big difference.
Next time I go to the hairdressers, if we're ever allowed to again, I might say to them, can you put on a calming wax melt, please?
Honestly, it makes all the difference.
Not that I'm anxious. I can't wait to get back, to be honest. We've all been waiting too long, haven't we?
Horrendous. Look at this. You look so glam, whereas I just shove my hair up. There's nothing else for it.
Well, I think it's wonderful what you're doing to open up people's eyes into the different options, because do you know what, that for so long holistic, natural, it's been seen as something else, you do something alternative, but it doesn't need to be. It sounds like really when you learn the holistic ways of doing things, you actually have more choice and more ways to help the dogs than just using different restraints and almost forcing them to cope with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's having an adaptive mindset and remembering that every single dog has his own needs. And also, a lot of people forget about self-care and how your own energy has an impact on the dog that you're working with, like you've tapped into already. And holistic grooming is just bringing everything together. And what's amazing about it as well is it's enhancing your relationships, it's enhancing your professional relationships, and it's also enhancing your customer relationships. And it's encouraging us all to work together. So yeah, I love holistic grooming, not bias.
No, I think it's fantastic, and anything that really gets you to look at the putting the dog first.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be a great thing, which I feel natural feeding does. You know, genuine fresh food feeding is putting the dog first. You know, it's not saying, oh, I can't do this, I don't have enough freezer space. I mean, obviously people in flats, you know, tiny flats, then perhaps that's genuine. But, you know, there's always a way. If you really want to feed fresh food, there's always a way, you know, to make it happen. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. Just give people, I know your course is totally oversubscribed, so, you know, we don't really always need to give out your details because you can't take on any more students.
I was so surprised. It was like, oh, do you know, honestly, I'm in cloud nine. I've just sent away all the student packs today, hence why I'm a mess. And honestly, the most stressful thing ever, shipping packs. But anyways, that's them away now. So my students are all enrolled, and I'm really excited. So yeah, that way.
If people wanted to, if they, I'm guessing you already need to be a groomer, or do you start from scratch?
No, I mean, I would always say that the holistic grooming is, the course itself is an enhancer. So ideally you want to have, because again, I'm not focusing on styling. My course is focused on everything else. So all the things that's missing from the curriculum. So I always say to students, if you're wanting to enroll, then at least be like doing your practical training, or you've just completed it, or your experience, it doesn't matter. But yeah, at least have that kind of professional practical styling course as well, just to get that bit out the way, you know. Gosh, I would be the worst person to tutor on that, like.
And where can people find you?
On here, yeah, not physically in my house, but www.stephaniezikman.coach. That's my website.
.coach. It's an unusual.
I know. I don't know why I picked it.
And it's Zikman, so it's ZIK.
MANN, yeah. Or they can look me up on Facebook because I'm always there as well, aren't I? So.
And at the moment, there isn't really a national database of holistic groomers, maybe, that people can just head to and find someone.
There isn't, but there will be very soon. There is, though. There's the Holistic Pet Directory, which is there's a lot of groomers jumping onto that at the moment. But there will be a directory soon. So if you just stay tuned, like on my Facebook or whatever, it will be announced.
Brilliant. All right. Well, we're gonna round up for tonight's Naked Truth. It's been really cool talking to you. Thank you. Next week, we're actually talking about vaccines with a holistic vet. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about vaccines, which is, honestly, such a hot topic. So to hear from the vet's point of view is going to be really, really interesting. That's going to be an unmissable one, I feel. It's kind of like I see that raw feeding and even, you know, just kind of moving along the line of pet food, once you start feeding much more naturally, you start questioning quite a lot, I think. You know, including the groomers that you're going to, and including that kind of thing. And definitely you start questioning fleas and worming and all these sort of practices that we do. And vaccines are obviously a big thing, you know, and we so don't know what to do half the time in terms of vaccines. Whether, you know, half the time we just want to say, no, don't want the vaccine. But then we're like, oh, you know, but actually maybe we should. So it's going to be really good next week. We're going to hear directly from a holistic vet, her opinion on vaccines and what we should be doing. So we look forward, well, I do anyway, Stephanie won't be here, you'll be watching, you'll have to watch for us.
I'm going to watch.
Look forward to seeing you next week on the next Naked Truths show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.